my gosh. Okay, so you wrap up the cruise ship gig, you find yourself back home. Did you go back? Um,
Yeah,
what did
there
you
was a
do?
little back and kind of all over the place there. Because when I was doing the ships full time, I in between I would just stay at home,
Yeah,
so I didn't have to pay rent for somewhere that I'm not living for 4 months at a time. So
yeah.
yeah, after I moved or stopped doing the ships, then I decided to move to Minneapolis, where I lived
Mm,
for about a year, I think, if I remember
mhm,
right. Got some friends that lived there. That was fun. And yeah, that was around the time I started working at Guitar Center,
mhm.
doing private drum and guitar lessons and stuff like that. That was my job up there. And that's when I learned that Adam Rofowitz was also working as an instructor at Guitar Center in Minneapolis at the time.
So he was
He was,
living in Minneapolis?
he was, yep. He
Oh,
might still, I'm not sure, but uh, he was at a different store than I was.
yeah.
But we were about an hour apart there. And yeah, I went to a Pliny show.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of him,
Oh,
and
yeah.
met Adam in the crowd. We just got to talking, and then he says, "Hey, by the way, I've got this tour coming up. I need someone to fill in for my lessons. I hear you work at Guitar Center." So then I ended up that summer taking all of his students for about a month.
Well,
Uh,
wait a minute, but he's a guitar instructor.
yeah,
So
yeah.
at the time you had already become proficient within the short amount of time uh of
Well, mhm.
that you
I
that
mean, I've been playing guitar, since I
a,
was 13, but
a long
yeah, and I mean, most of it was teaching younger kids, like,
okay.
let's play your major scale, let's learn your
Oh,
open chords, let's learn the
gotcha.
blues, you know. Yeah, I know. I thought of that too when he asked me, he's like, wait, you're Adam Rofowitz, are you going to be teaching like, advanced, arpeggios and,
Yeah,
diminished
sweet,
minor?
sweet picking, harmonic minor,
Yeah,
arpeggios, and
yeah.
four octaves. Yeah. Oh
Luckily,
my.
it wasn't any of that. So, man,
Wow, man. So, and
that
he
was
was
cool.
he was playing with Arch Echo at that time that he went
Yep.
out on the road. So,
Yeah.
so they were already playing. They were already
I think I
together.
was on their Ebola tour when that happened. I don't.
Mm,
Yeah, I'll try to. What was that? Like probably 2020, 2021, I think,
yeah,
maybe when that happened.
yeah.
So yeah, that was
So he
cool.
goes out. He goes out on tour. You pick up his students. So you're doing drum and guitar.
Yep.
You're instructing. Oh boy, you must have been pretty busy at that time.
Yeah. It was a good. It was a full schedule for sure doing that.
Wow,
That
wow.
was
So
pretty
they
good.
go out. How long was he gone for? How long did you do this
There,
for?
that tour, I think it was like 2 months. It was like the summer. I remember it filled my whole summer schedule to
Oh,
do
okay.
that. So it worked out
And
to
then
to do that.
so he
Yeah.
comes back. Now at the
Yeah.
time, did you say that you were a fan of Arch Echo at that time? You knew who he was, or
Yeah. So I got to remember the timeline of this happening because I knew I discovered them while I was working on cruise ships.
hmm,
Just found a video, recommended to me or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
But then, yeah. So when I came back from right after I ended doing ships, I was about ready to finish my first EP.
Hmm.
And then I didn't know anything really about mixing or how to properly make a record at the time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of embarrassing. Well, I sent an email. This is how simple it was. I sent an email to Adam Bentley saying, "Hey, here's my stuff. Would you be interested in mixing it?" And
And
that's
you
how
didn't
that.
know Adam Bentley at that time. You didn't know. It was just
No, I just knew him from the band, and
okay.
I'd heard his stuff, and I said, it'd be maybe I can get. I didn't think you'd say yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what's he going to do with this kid from Minnesota? But yeah,
Wow.
he said yes, and then we started mixing it. I didn't even know how to record DIs at that time, so I had
Mhm.
this old Digitech pedal, like effects rig.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I send him all of my tracks with tones from that, this just cheap Digitech pedal. And he goes, he did what he could, but then I think he worked on it for about a week and then he sent me a message, man,
You got to
do you have
retrack.
DIs for this?
You got to retrack.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't reamp anything. I can't reamp anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
Oh
Um,
man.
so yeah, that's how that started. And then I'd slowly gotten to know Adam R through Guitar Center a little bit. And then for whatever reason, I decided to move back home to Minnesota, or I was in Minnesota. I moved back home to northern Minnesota
Yeah.
a year later. And that's when I started finishing up the full album, which, you've heard 3 songs from. Okay, so then I was ready to work on that. And then I was slowly getting to know not just the Adams, but I was thinking, okay, I want to have real drums for this new record. Let me talk to Richie, who I didn't know at the time. Again, just messaged him, messaged Joe, got them slowly involved.
Now,
just over time, getting to know these guys.
I gotta hand it to you, Brian, because I get this sense of humility from you in a lot of ways, and I'm just gonna flatter you a little bit here.
Please.
Because in the video I just watched, you had another guitar player who's smoking hot doing a solo on it, and this is your recording, so you do that. You get another drummer to play on your stuff when you are, I'm sure, quite good at playing drums. I mean, if it's any indication of your guitar playing, you're probably a smoking drummer too. But yet you get Richie. You're like, well, I want this. I want this other guy. So your investment in your music, it's evident to me. Your investment in your music is about the quality of the music. It's not about you.
Absolutely.
It's not about putting you in the spotlight. It's about how do I make the best music and put it out in the world. And dude, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And I recognize that, and I give you major kudos for doing that, because I don't see that a lot. I really don't. I see people just saying, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to show everybody how great I am. But I don't get that. I don't get that from you, man. So kudos.
No, I've always thought I had a good sense of melody, and I love shreddy guitar solos, and I want to be a better player. I'm always working on chops, but the first thing I think you should hear when you listen to a song is that melody should stick with you.
Totally.
It should be catchy. So, yeah. And as far as bringing in other people, all these demos I had to do all myself, right? So I've got my MIDI drum parts and MIDI bass parts, and I do my best. But then I want to have someone else come in with fresh ears and new ideas, and there's a ton of interesting note choices that Joe plays on some of those songs that I never would have thought of, or Richie does these insane polymetric fills, or changes the groove in ways I never would have thought of,
Totally.
So that's a huge reason I wanted to work with these guys. And they're the best of the best too. So to get to do that,
these guys are amazing. I mean, when I first heard Arch Echo, and you can go back and watch my reaction to Color Wheel.
Yeah,
it blew my freaking mind.
We had the same reaction. Yeah, absolutely.
I could not believe what I was hearing. I'm like, I am being just punched in the face and the gut with this, not only technical, but melodic and beautiful and emotional. And to be able to, to meld the two together, the technical and the emotional side, says a lot. And you do that too, man. And especially in the last one I did in One Man's Treasure, you're playing, you're very melodic, and I really like the way you play it. I like, you've got the tools, you've got the chops, but they're tools. They're not there to show off. They're there just like, okay, I can sweep pick, I can play these incredibly fast and long legato lines. I can do double picking. I've done my homework, but that all goes towards making music. And I really, really get that from your playing. That's why when I first heard your stuff, I was like, you get it. You really, really get it. And that's why, I wanted to showcase you on the channel and do this interview with you because
Absolutely.
we need more guys like you making music, man. So I really appreciate that. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Arch Echo, man. Yeah, that's quite a an interesting coincidence how that all came about for you.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah. Uh, Again, I've never been afraid to just kind of walk up to the big person in the room,
yeah, yeah,
and just, they're humans too. All these people that we looked
totally.
up to, hopefully they're not going to be a jerk,
Yeah,
but it's always worth saying hello if you can,
totally,
and
totally.
and now it's kind of amazing. I don't think they'd mind me telling you that I'm good friends with Richie now, and I hang
Yeah.
out with Adam Bentley, and since moving to Nashville, they're both here, and
Yes. Yes.
we go to Richie's church, and it's great,
Oh man, that's
and,
awesome.
and it's yeah. So and it, you know, I'm currently working on a new album, and I'm gonna hopefully get Richie to play drums on it again. Get some people involved. So you
That's
know,
awesome. Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
probably at this point it comes down to a matter of availability and time. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure they'd be willing to do it. It's
Yeah.
these guys are getting pretty busy. I mean, yeah, they
Hmm.
were out with Dream Theater for quite a while,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
get back out on the road because now that
Oh, man.
you know
All over the
everyone's
place.
gigging again, we're not
Hmm.
shut down like we were. Everyone's definitely taking advantage of the fact that they can go and get out on the road and make a little bit of money.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh
I'm
man,
hope that's the next step I need to figure out is I need to get, need merch. You've made me realize I need merch.
totally
And yeah, I haven't played any shows because I'm still a solo act, really, at the end of the day. So,
right.
and I'm sure you know how challenging it is to find people that are not only, good players but
Yeah,
good hangs. So
totally.
that's what I'm looking for now is to get that going and then
Yeah.
start doing some shows. That'd be awesome.
That'd be
So,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. How do you go about doing that? I know, from talking to Richie, just kind of how that band got together. I mean, and they
Right.
all live in different states. I mean, most of them they're all over the place, but they
Right.
still manage to write and record remotely. And then they get together and play
Yeah.
and go out on the
Yeah.
road. I mean, it's like they're spread out all over the place. So it's a different day and age now where you don't all
Yeah.
have to live in the same neighborhood. So you probably could assemble a band of guys
Hmm.
that are kind of all over the place and then
Hmm.
commit to doing a little tour there and get out on the
Yeah.
road.
I kind of learned how that realized that that's part of why I moved to Nashville was
Hmm.
I was thinking kind of the old school way you got to go where all the musicians are,
Right, right.
And I mean I've done some local, gigs here playing covers and stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
fun. But you're right, you don't really have to be in this mecca of music people to meet great
yeah,
musicians and connect with people.
yeah,
So I'm trying to do both. I try to go out to jam sessions and meet people, and
yeah.
there's some really killer jams here in Nashville that
Oh, I
just you can
bet.
go and people will just show up. These big names will just show up at the local club and blow your mind, and you didn't even expect it. So
It's crazy what's happened with Nashville because, LA's like, I mean, Nashville's like what LA used to be.
hmm.
And
Hmm.
LA was the place that was the mecca, for musicians. That's where you would go if you want to, have a career, be a professional, and meet people and all that. But not anymore. I mean, Nashville. There are musicians from LA that moved to Nashville. A lot of
Right.
musicians from LA
Yeah,
moved to
everyone's moving here.
Nashville.
Yeah,
It's
that's
hot. I mean, it is definitely
yep.
the place. Um,
Figuratively and literally.
yeah,
You got to
yeah.
remember, I'm coming from winters that
Mm.
are like 40 below to summers that are 100 above on average.
Oh my gosh.
It's been an adjustment.
Oh my gosh. So do you know the Nashville number system?
I'm working on
Are you?
it. Again, it's weird. I can't read guitar music at all. Like I can
Oh,
read
I was going to
tabs,
ask you about that.
you know, because no, I always focused on drum set. I mean, well, okay, I can read notes like for I had to play marimba and
Oh,
xylophone
okay.
parts,
Good,
but
good, good.
yeah, but as far as like sight reading, guitar music, no, I'm lost, man. You'd have to give me like
Really?
an hour to figure it out. Yeah.
So
So
it doesn't really translate, I guess, from reading drum music to it being
right.
guitar. Now, why
Well,
is
I can read the rhythms,
right,
but
right, right, right.
I never internalized, okay, that's an F sharp on this
Yeah.
line, on this space, or that's what this chord, that's what a C minor chord looks like. I never learned that repertoire enough. So
So when you
yeah,
look at
it's very different, very different.
when you
Mhm.
look at drum music, you know what is the snare? What note is the snare on
Oh, right.
on the
On a,
staff?
on a staff, I think it'd be a C.
C? Is it a
I
C?
remember. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. So whenever you see that in the music, your brain automatically goes like this, right? Snare. Like
Right.
when you're reading, there's no translation. It's like that dot makes me do this, makes me hit the snare, right?
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but with guitar music, now it's like you're seeing notes and you're like, I don't have the relationship between that note and that fret. So there's a
Right.
translation that goes on
Yeah.
because I've seen guys who can read on guitar. Blows my mind because I'm like, how the heck did you
Yeah.
just do that? It's magic to me to see these
Hmm.
top readers do this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, and they're like, yeah, it's not that hard. You got to sit down every day and you just got to read, read, read. There's no shortcuts.
Yep.
You just got to go. You just got to put the time in, and eventually you start reading in phrases. You pick
Yep.
up the whole line, as opposed to the
Right.
notes, and
Yep.
from
It's
reading
like you got to
drums.
learn the letters, then the word, then the sentences, and how to say
Exactly,
that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's yeah. So yeah. Not being able to read on guitar. I mean, it's
yeah.
Do you want to put time into reading on
I
guitar?
would
Or does
love
it?
to put, there's a lot of things I want to learn,
Yeah.
that's, as far as reading music, that's probably not something I need right now.
Yeah.
All the gigs I play that are sight reading here in Nashville are on drums anyway.
Okay.
Um, it'd be cool if I could go out and play top 40, and sight read that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with the national number system. I'm getting better at it as I
Yeah.
do it. You know, I mean, ironically, when I write even guitar chords for my music, I figure out what sounds good and then I figure out what that chord is.
Oh.
I know some theory, but I'm not nearly as well versed as someone that went to school to play guitar.
Yeah.
So I just kind of I know what sounds cool, what I want to hear. I'll hear the melody in my head. I'll start with that. Then I'll try to come up with a cool chord around that. And the rhythm comes after that. So I'm never sitting down. The typical way I think people write is they'll just play and then they'll
Yeah.
come up with something that sounds good.
Right.
I always start. I'll just go for a walk or something like that. I'll just hum to myself, and I'll look like a crazy person because you'll see me walking in my own world down the street. I'll try to find somewhere a little quiet. But then I'll have my phone. I've got all sorts of thousands of recordings just of my humming into my phone. Here's a little riff that popped into my head or something.
Dude, I think that is the best way to write. I think they call it audiate. I'm not sure.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
audible version of visualize.
Mm-hmm.
And I that's how I write too.
Mm.
Because if you pick an instrument up, you're already establishing the parameters of what you can do.
Right.
You're,
Yes.
you're like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I do on this instrument. You got the same boxes and the same chords and the same
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So you're limiting yourself. But if
Mm-hmm.
you sit and imagine, because I think anyone can do this. I don't know, Brian. I think that because I talk to people about songwriting, people who are
Mm-hmm.
struggling with songwriting, and it's gotten easier for me to do this. So it
Mm.
comes very naturally to me to be able to sit and formulate a song in my head and then
Mm-hmm.
realize that on the instrument. So it's like I already
Mm-hmm.
know what it sounds like it's already playing, on the radio, or
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
you can do that, and anyone can do that, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think anyone's capable of doing that, because if you've heard music, which most people have all their lives, they've heard all kinds of different music, different styles and all of that. Why couldn't you just sit there and build that up in your head and then go,
Hmm.
okay, I know what I want. And
Yeah.
um,
I mean, what's that quote? Nothing in music is original.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean, it sounds bad, but it's true. You can obviously hear my influences in my music. You can hear
mhm,
anyone's influences in their
yeah,
music, and that's,
absolutely.
if copying something is fine as long as you build upon it. Take those pieces and do something a little different with it. Put your own spin on it.
Yeah,
And yeah, you're right. You can ask anyone to hum something for you, and
yeah,
they'll come up with
yeah.
something.
So, I wanted to get into to this with you about your songwriting. So, let's say you had to write a brand new song right now.
Okay.
What would you go through? What is your process?
Literally, I would go put on my coat and go for a walk. And I would start thinking, what kind of song do I want it to be? Do I want it to be a fast song, a heavy song, a quiet song? And again, I'll just try to play the song in my head, like you were saying, like I'm hearing it on the radio. I try to because I try to write start to finish. Rarely do I
Mhm.
have a section in the middle of a song that's the first thing I'll come up with.
Oh,
Um, so I'll try
yeah.
to think, how do I want to start?
Mhm.
Just like what you said, do I hear the drums first? Is it the bass? And then usually I'll get to the point where I'll get a melody of some kind going in my head. And then the minute I have that, I think it's good. I'll
Mhm.
try to record that on my phone. Like, okay,
Right.
here's my melody. Then I'll sit down and I'll try to learn it.
Mhm.
And then it's this constant process of refining, of going back and, okay, do I hear it a little differently this time? Because you wake up the next morning, maybe it doesn't sound the same, or you want it to be a little different.
Right.
And, I mean, all hands on deck. I know it's 8 minutes, but that
Mhm.
was that. I think I rewrote that song like 4 times.
Oh, wow.
Like cut and rewrote sections over and over again
Right.
so they flow better.
Yep.
All
Yep.
that stuff. But that's all it is. It's this constant refining, and then once you got your melody, you add the drums and bass, and then what layers do I hear in the background, synths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the very end, I have a good friend of mine that has perfect pitch. His name's Josh, and he helped me
Mm.
do some part writing. He does a ton of that arranging and part writing. So
Now,
he helped me with the string part. What's
when
up?
you say part writing, what do you mean by part writing?
I what do I mean? I guess arranging would be the right term.
Okay.
Where it, all the synth layers that you hear, the pianos and the
Mm.
string section stuff in the background. He's really
Mhm.
good at arranging that, but arranging is in the chord. What's the word I'm looking for? Where you have the third on top and where the third in the bass. The
Yeah. The inversions.
inversions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's really good at that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he helps me with that. So
And kind of
again,
produce helps to produce, like helps he's helping in producing
yeah, yep,
your idea, like, okay, it would sound nice, let's put a string section in, and
hmm,
he kind of knows how to sweeten it up and support what you've written.
right, exactly, yep.
Yeah.
I'll say, yeah, I want to hear this chord ringing out, and I want to hear this brought out a little more, or I want this
Yeah.
section to be a little faster feeling. Um,
So getting into more specifically your guitar solos. So
mm,
how do you go about approaching your guitar solos? I know some guys like to improvise and then just like, I'm going to do 50 takes and comp this,
mm,
later on.
mm,
Or some guys are like going, the solo is like writing a song. I'm going to
mm.
compose the solo. What's your approach on guitar?
I guess I'm kind of in between those two. I always want my solos to feel spontaneous,
Mhm.
so usually if I come up with a good solo section, I'll just record a bunch of different takes of me just improvising over it. You know,
Yeah.
That's one of the first things to learn on guitar. I mean, sure, everyone learns the pentatonic scale,
Yeah.
but I ran with that. I just love I'd put on iTunes and just
Mhm.
shuffle play, and I would just solo everything over everything I could,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
jamming out the stuff.
Yep.
So that's how I approach writing solos: is I'll do 3 or 4 different takes, and then I'll go back through and listen. Ooh, I like that little bit. I like that bit, and then you kind
Right.
of put the pieces together,
Right. Right.
or the hard parts are when I want to have a shreddy section, right? Okay, I need to have
Yeah.
something flashy there. I'll come back to that and then compose something,
Ah,
right? You know,
yeah.
but it's only little bits of that because a lot of it is that more improvised. I want it to feel natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Melodic. And then you come back and you go, okay, well, I want a little shreddy. I want a little spice right here. So
right,
what
yeah,
can I do
just
to
a
add a
little bit,
little, just
just a
add a
little
little
bit.
bit of spice in here? And
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
really like your solos flow real nicely. They take me
Thank
on a
you.
journey, when I listen to it. It all makes sense. It sounds very organic. None of it
Hmm.
sounds forced. It sounds like everything, like that's why I was asking you about your approach to it, because it kind of
Hmm.
sounds like the way that you've written, it's a little composition in itself, like the
Hmm.
the solo is a little composition. But I know,
Yeah.
from my own recording, how that happens, because I do a lot of iterations. And it's funny that when I sit down to do a solo, I rely on my improvisational skills uh,
Hmm.
to kind of get me in the water. And
Hmm.
all like, okay, I'll just do a bunch of stuff and then something will stick out. And I'm like, oh, okay, I do like that. So then on the next take, I'll keep that little
Yep.
part and then I'll improvise again the rest of it. So
Right.
I keep keeping what I like and improvising what I don't like. And then eventually, by the time I get to, like, I don't know how many takes deep, I've
Hmm.
actually composed the solo on the fly as I'm recording, and I dump all
Yep.
the other tracks I did before, because I ended up formulating a solo at
Yep.
the 10th or 20th iteration of it. I actually created it. So then I don't have to go and comp the tracks, because I'm like, okay, I just actually,
You
I'm going
just
to
did.
keep the last one. It
Right.
flows nicely.
That's about exactly how I do it. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
good. I
very
wanted
similar.
confirmation on that, because it's like,
Yeah.
I really like what you do, and I was wondering if you kind of took a similar approach to doing that, and
Hmm.
if that worked for you as well.
You can't be afraid to change things, or you can't be too married to your original ideas too.
Yeah,
Because again, when I would first hear what Richie did over a song after I sent him the MIDI drum tracks that I thought were, the
killer,
best I
right,
could come up, he
right,
would do
right.
something just completely out of left field, and I go, what, you know? And at first, maybe the very first time you hear it, you think, "Oh, I don't like that. That's not what I had in mind." But
Yeah,
then you slowly let it, win you over, and then you're like, "Wow, that's really cool."
yeah, yeah.
So
It
don't be
is.
afraid of those little changes like that.
Yeah, bringing in, like, you've made this remark, and we talked about it a little bit already, about bringing in other people into the mix,
Hmm.
because, like, I play multiple instruments too. I have ones that I'm better on than others, but
Yep.
I could do a whole song from beginning to end, all the instruments. But I don't want to be the guy playing all the
Right.
instruments, because I want
Hmm.
somebody who's going to be a better singer, a better drummer, and it's like, having the other people come in who bring their creativity to it
Hmm.
is going to make it better, is going to make it better. So
Hmm.
hearing Richie, like, you're like, hey, I'm a drummer, I got this down, and then you throw it over and he goes, he did a Mozart Salieri on you. Well, did you try this?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do something like this, and you're like, ah, man.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
it's gold. Then you get to use it, and it's like, you're not in any way disappointed by being outplayed in any way. It's like, oh gosh,
Right.
now I get to use this.
No, and like you said, I never think of it as outplaying anyone. It's
Yeah,
I do my thing, and I want to
totally.
create something that's catchy, and that's
Yeah,
interesting. And I
yeah,
want to, if someone else can bring something else to the table that I couldn't,
yeah.
I love that.
I know that all your songs are your babies. but is there one that sticks out? It might be the last one that you did, because I think everyone answers that like the last thing you did, because we all feel that that's always our best. But is there a song that sticks out that you go, you know what, this is me, this is the one,
Yeah.
I love this tune.
I mean, I'm really proud of All Hands on Deck. I
Yeah,
think, oh, maybe I didn't mention this. I tried to throw a little bit of that. There's a theme, a melody. It's
yeah.
dun, 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 and it happens to be the chorus of that song, right?
Mm-hmm,
With
mm-hmm.
embellishments. But I love that classical idea of having a theme that runs
Me
throughout.
too,
So,
totally.
so
Absolutely.
I'm really proud to have a catchy melody that
Yeah,
recurs throughout the song like that.
definitely,
The album
definitely.
actually. But yeah, no, that song I think I'm really happy with how it flows, and and obviously to have Adam and Joey play on it was incredible.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, just I felt like it reached all the high points that I wanted to get out of a song.
yeah,
And I think it worked out in a way that I was really happy with. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
And then you gotta walk away and then write another song, and you're like, I don't know, man. I
I'll
just
tell you, yeah,
it's
I
hard.
am. I'm trying to write new stuff right now, and I tell you, it's
Yeah,
yeah. After you come out with something, then you have to measure everything you're doing by what you did before, and you go,
exactly. It gets
it's
harder.
yeah, and you go, well, I should be better at this now. I just
Yeah,
did it, but then you think, well, I can't write something too much like what I did before.
yeah.
But if it's not enough like what I did before, no one's gonna,
Ex-
I
can't
mean,
be he can't do reggae at this point,
yeah,
I'm just gonna make a sharp left
okay,
turn and
yeah.
do
Although
this.
there is a song that has a straight up double time jazz swing solo in it from the album. I don't
Oh,
know.
oh,
So
well,
I'm not afraid of left turns. I try to have some
yeah,
left
but
turns,
who
but
doesn't like that though? I certainly
yeah,
do. If you go straight into that, man, I'll never complain. I love that. I love that, because then it's kind of like I'll hear groups do that and they go into a total like authentic jazz type of thing. And I'm like, I knew they had jazz chops. I
yeah,
knew it. You could just
yeah.
tell, because that's man, playing jazz, learning jazz and fusion and all of that stuff, man. Uh,
Hmm.
just the playground that you have
Yeah,
is just phenomenal with
that
harmony.
was
Oh,
yeah. That was huge for me in college. Was I didn't really listen to jazz, but then I joined jazz band,
man.
started listening to it and learning it, and it's so fun to play.
Yeah.
But being a drummer in a big band, jazz big band, you're
Oh,
driving the bus of like 30 people.
oh my gosh.
That's another feeling entirely.
Did your instructor ever yell at you, not my tempo?
Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah. He never threw a chair at me. He was very nice about
that
it.
was
Yeah,
a great movie. Whiplash, for those of you who don't know what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. I bet.
So
I bet. I
go
wonder
ahead.
how many jazz musicians love that movie and how many hate it.
I know.
I bet it's split down the middle because it's
Probably.
a pretty
Probably.
polarizing movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, yeah, it was. Man, I felt nervous the whole time watching it, because I relate to so much to this, and
Hmm.
to see
Hmm.
like those scenes, it's just like I'm all
It,
stressed out watching it.
oh yeah, they push it as far as they can go. I think with that
Oh, oh
one.
my gosh,
Yeah,
man.
makes you
Um,
wonder. Makes
yeah,
you wonder if that's. I don't want to think that happens in real life, but
to
maybe
some
somewhere.
degree,
I don't
it
know.
probably
Yeah.
does. To some degree, I mean, some of
Yeah.
these band leaders, I mean, the egos on some of these guys,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they're dealing with students or whatever, and they've been doing it for a while, and they
Hmm.
know how it should be. I mean, I could imagine that these guys can be,
Yeah. Yeah.
asses,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
struggling, especially if you're trying to get an education in music. What do? You got no choice. You have to play by the guy's rules, and
Right. I mean, you want to be positive and help people get better, but you got to be willing to take the criticism too.
yeah,
As long as you're not dishing it out like they did in Whiplash. But
yeah, yeah,
sometimes you need a little kick in the rear to say, hey, you got to work harder at this, or you know, you need to focus on this, or you know.
It pushes.